5 years earlier. And the Russo family vineyard. The morning sun painted golden streaks across rows of meticulously tended vines that stretched toward the horizon. Valentina Russo stood on the terrace of her family's Tuscan-style villa, inhaling the earthy perfume of ripening grapes. At 26, she embodied the perfect blend of her parents, her father's business acumen and her mother's artistic soul. "There you are," called a voice behind her. Kai Nakamura approached, 2 espresso cups balanced in his hands. His Japanese-American features had grown familiar to the locals in Napa Valley over the 3 years he'd been part of Valentina's life. "Just admiring the view," she said, accepting the coffee. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is our life." Russo Vineyards had transformed from her grandfather's modest plot into one of Napa's most celebrated wineries. Their signature red blend, Sang del Cuore, Blood of the Heart, had won international awards 3 years running, commanding prices that made other vintners envious. "Your father wants us at the main house by 9, Kai reminded her, his fingers intertwining with hers. The 3-carat engagement ring caught the morning light. Something about the expansion plans. Inside the main villa, Luciano Russo presided over breakfast with the exuberance that characterized everything he did. At 62, he remained handsome, with silver-streaked black hair and the build of a man who worked alongside his employees despite his success. "Ecco la mia bellezza," he exclaimed as Valentina entered. "And Kai, sip. Maria has made frittata." Valentina's mother, Sofia, elegant even in casual clothes, kissed her daughter's cheek before returning to her seat. The family's 2 younger brothers, Marco and Antonio, were already devouring breakfast while arguing good-naturedly about soccer. This was the Russo way. Business discussions happened around food, with family present. No decisions were made in sterile boardrooms. "The bank approved our loan for the eastern expansion," Luciano announced, spreading maps across the table between plates. "We'll plant the new Sangiovese clones next spring. By the time you 2 have your first bambino, we'll be producing 30% more of our reserve wines." Valentina and Kai exchanged glances. They'd planned to wait a few years for children, after she completed her MBA and he established his investment consulting firm. But Luciano's enthusiasm was infectious. "We're thinking of a winter wedding," Valentina said. "December after harvest." Sofia clapped her hands in delight while Luciano raised his coffee cup in a toast. "To new beginnings. New vines, new family members, new chapters in the Russo legacy." None of them could have imagined how prophetic those words would become. Later that evening, Valentina found her father in his study, surrounded by ancient-looking documents and photographs. Unlike his usual openness about business matters, he quickly shuffled papers into a folder when she entered. "Papa, what are you working on so late?" "Nothing important, Tesoro," he said, but the shadows under his eyes suggested otherwise. "Just some family history." She glimpsed a faded photograph, a woman who looked remarkably like her grandmother standing beside an elegantly dressed stranger. Before she could inquire further, Luciano changed the subject. "Have you seen the latest Wine Spectator? They're featuring our Sang del Cuore in next month's issue." It was the last truly peaceful evening the Russo family would enjoy. The first sign came 3 weeks later, brown spots appearing on leaves in the eastern vineyard. Within days, entire sections of vines withered mysteriously. The agricultural experts were baffled. "It's like nothing I've seen before," the plant pathologist said, examining samples in the winery's lab. "Almost as if the vines were poisoned rather than infected." Luciano's face darkened. "Poisoned? You mean deliberately?" Before they could investigate further, financial troubles struck with suspicious synchronicity. The bank that had enthusiastically approved their expansion loan suddenly called in all existing debt, citing market volatility concerns. Their primary distributor canceled their contract, claiming quality inconsistencies that didn't exist. Valentina found her father in the vineyard at dawn, kneeling beside dying vines, his hands stained with soil. "This isn't natural," he said without looking up. Someone is doing this to us. Papa, that's paranoia talking. Who would? The Blackwoods. He spoke the name like a curse. I've been researching our family history. There are connections, things that were hidden. I've been getting close to the truth. The Blackwoods. You mean Dominic Blackwood, the tech billionaire? Valentina had seen the name in business magazines. What could he possibly have against us? Luciano stood, suddenly looking every one of his 62 years. It goes back generations. I found evidence that. He stopped, glancing around nervously. Not here. The walls have ears these days. That night, Valentina awoke to find her bedroom door slightly ajar. Downstairs, a light glowed from her father's study. She descended quietly, hearing Luciano's voice. He was on the phone, speaking urgently. I have the original documents and the bottles to prove it, he was saying. The 1943 formula was stolen from my grandfather when he was interned during the war. The Blackwood fortune is built on theft of Russo intellectual property. Valentina froze on the stairs. Her father continued, unaware of her presence. I don't want money. I want recognition of the truth. My grandfather died believing his life's work was lost. I want the world to know what really happened. Is that a threat? His voice hardened. Very well. You leave me no choice but to go public with everything. When he hung up, Valentina retreated silently to her room, mind racing. The next morning, she planned to demand answers, but Luciano had already left for meetings in San Francisco. It was the last time she saw him alive. The call came at sunset. Workers had found Luciano's body among the dying vines of their signature vineyard. He appeared to have consumed a lethal dose of pesticide, a half-empty bottle of Sang Delcor beside him. The suicide note was typed, not handwritten, the first red flag. It confessed to financial mismanagement, claimed responsibility for the vineyard's collapse, and begged forgiveness for mistakes that cannot be undone. This is wrong, Valentina insisted at the police station, Kai's supportive arm around her shoulders. My father would never take his own life. And he certainly wouldn't confess to financial improprieties that never happened. The detective's expression held sympathy but skepticism. Mrs. Russo confirmed your father had been behaving erratically, Ms. Russo. The bank records show some concerning transactions. Fabricated. Someone is framing him. But even as she spoke, Valentina recognized how it sounded. A daughter in denial about her father's failings. The investigation concluded quickly. Suicide, the official report stated. Case closed. The Russo family splintered in grief. Sofia retreated to her sister's home in Italy, unable to bear the vineyard's memories. Marco and Antonio took positions at wineries in different countries, their boyish exuberance extinguished. Valentina alone remained, sleeping in her father's study, searching for answers. 3 nights after the funeral, she found the hidden compartment in his desk, a small cavity revealed by pressing a sequence of decorative knots in the wood. Inside lay a leather journal, a USB drive, and a small key labeled CB7. The journal contained Luciano's research into the Russo and Blackwood families. During World War II, when Italian Americans faced persecution, her great-grandfather Matteo Russo had been interned as an enemy alien. His revolutionary winemaking techniques and proprietary yeast strain, developed over decades, were allegedly stolen by Charles Blackwood, who visited the internment camp as a government consultant. The Blackwood family's first successful wine, released in 1945, used these techniques to win critical acclaim. That wine became the foundation of their diversified fortune, which now included technology, real estate, and financial services under Dominic Blackwood's leadership. The USB drive contained scans of original documents, including letters from her great-grandfather describing the theft, and chemical analyses comparing the original Russo formula with the Blackwood wine. Most damning was an audio recording. Her father's final phone call with someone he addressed as Ms. Blackwood. The woman's voice was cultured, elderly, and chilling in its calm menace. You will withdraw these absurd claims, Luciano. The past is best left buried. I have proof, her father had insisted. The original formula, documentation of my grandfather's work, even bottles of the pre-war wine. And where would these bottles be? The woman's interest was palpable. Luciano had laughed bitterly. Somewhere you'll never find them. The call ended with the woman's final words. Consider your family, Luciano. Particularly that beautiful daughter of yours. Such promise. It would be tragic if her future were compromised. Valentina's hands shook as she ejected the drive. The key remained a mystery. CB7 meant nothing to her. But one thing was crystal clear. Dominic Blackwood's family had destroyed hers, and the elderly woman, presumably Isabel Blackwood, Dominic's grandmother and the family matriarch, had threatened her father before his death. That night, as rain lashed against the windows of the now mortgaged villa, Valentina made a vow. The Blackwoods had taken everything from her family through deception and threats. She would return the favor with interest. You're talking about destroying your life for revenge, Kai argued 3 days later. They stood in what remained of the Russo wine cellar, most bottles sold to cover mounting debts. I'm talking about justice, Valentina countered. They murdered my father and stole our legacy. Then go to the police. The FBI. With what? Circumstantial evidence and historical claims. Against one of the wealthiest families in America. She shook her head. The system won't help us. I need to do this myself. Kai's face fell as understanding dawned. The engagement. You're ending it. She removed the ring, placing it in his palm and closing his fingers around it. I can't ask you to wait for me. What I'm planning will take years. Let me help you, he pleaded. We can find another way. There is no other way. She kissed him one last time. But I will need your help with something else. The transformation began the next day. The vibrant, open-hearted Valentina Russo ceased to exist. In her place emerged Valerie Blake, not yet Blackwood. Coolly elegant, with ash blonde hair replacing her natural black, colored contacts lightening her dark eyes, and a carefully cultivated mid-Atlantic accent erasing her Italian-American inflections. Kai's investment expertise helped her salvage enough from the family's assets to fund her metamorphosis. She studied Dominic Blackwood obsessively. His businesses, habits, preferences, even his dating history. She crafted a background that would intrigue him. An art historian specializing in wine-related art and artifacts, orphaned young to avoid family complications, educated at institutions he respected. For 3 years she prepared. She established her false identity with meticulous attention to detail. She cultivated relationships with people in Dominic's orbit. She studied wine authentication to a level that would impress even the most knowledgeable collector. And she waited for the perfect opportunity. It came in the form of a charity auction at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. The featured lot, a rare collection of wine-related art, including a painting of the Blackwood estate circa 1945, the year they released their first award-winning wine. Dominic Blackwood would be there. And so would Valerie Blake, prepared to accidentally capture his interest with her expert knowledge of the very history his family had tried to bury. As she dressed for the event, Valentina, now fully embodying Valerie, looked at her reflection. The woman who stared back was a stranger, constructed for one purpose only. For you, Papa, she whispered, touching the small vial of Russo Vineyard soil she wore on a chain beneath her dress. Tonight it begins. Hello, my beautiful soul. Have you ever felt that burning need for justice when someone has deeply wronged you or someone you love? That moment when you realize the world isn't fair, and sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands. Valentina's journey from devastated daughter to calculated avenger speaks to something primal in us all, the desire to balance the scales when life has been cruelly unjust. I wonder, have you ever wanted revenge against someone who hurt you? Did you act on it or find another path? And do you believe revenge can truly bring peace, or does it only create new wounds? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else navigating their own path through betrayal and pain. If this story resonates with you, please like and subscribe for more emotional journeys that explore the complex, beautiful mess of being human. I promise Valentina's story is just beginning, and you won't want to miss what happens next. The San Francisco Museum of Modern Art glittered with wealth and privilege. Valentina, now fully inhabiting her Valerie Blake persona, navigated the crowd with practiced ease, a champagne flute barely touched in her hand. Her black column dress was elegant but understated, designed to blend in rather than stand out. She would be remembered for her mind, not her appearance. She positioned herself strategically near the exhibition's centerpiece, a rare 1945 painting of Blackwood Estate's first commercial harvest. The artist had captured workers gathering grapes against a backdrop of autumn hills, the Blackwood mansion gleaming white in the distance. Fascinating piece, isn't it? The voice behind her was deep, confident. Valentina didn't turn immediately. 3 years of preparation had taught her patience. The brushwork is competent, she replied, still studying the painting. But the artist took liberties with historical accuracy. Oh! Now she had his attention. She could feel Dominic Blackwood moving closer. His interest piqued. The grape varieties depicted weren't grown in that region until 1947. And this technique of low-hanging trellises, that's distinctly Italian, specifically from central Italy. She finally turned, meeting his gaze directly. Someone brought old-world methods to Napa Valley. Dominic Blackwood was more handsome in person than in photographs. Tall and athletic at 42, with intense gray eyes and dark hair silvering at the temples. His custom tuxedo couldn't disguise the fact that he worked out religiously. Power and discipline radiated from him. You have quite an eye for details. Blake. Valerie Blake. She offered her hand, which he held a moment longer than necessary. Dominic Blackwood. It's my family's estate in the painting. I know. She allowed a small smile. Your family's 1945 vintage revolutionized American winemaking, though the techniques employed have always been something of a mystery. A flicker of something, wariness, crossed his face before his charm reasserted itself. Perhaps you'd share your expertise over dinner sometime. I'm always eager to learn more about my family's legacy. I'm afraid I'm leaving for Paris tomorrow. Research at the Bibliothèque Nationale. The fabricated appointment had been part of her strategy. Make him work for her attention. When do you return? 3 weeks. He pulled out a business card, writing a number on the back. My private line. Call me when you're back. I'd value your perspective on some historical pieces in my collection. She accepted the card with just the right hesitation. Perhaps, if my schedule allows. As she walked away, she felt his eyes following her. Phase 1 complete. She didn't call for 4 weeks. When she did, his invitation was immediate. Dinner at his Napa Valley estate. She declined, suggesting a public restaurant instead. Their first date lasted 5 hours, conversation flowing from wine history to art, literature, and global politics. She revealed carefully crafted portions of her false background. Orphaned at 12, raised by a grandmother in Connecticut, educated at Yale and the Sorbonne. Dominic was clearly accustomed to women who were either impressed by his wealth or eager to share their life stories. Valerie's measured revelations and genuine intellectual challenge intrigued him. When he invited her to a wine tasting at his estate, she accepted but brought along colleagues as buffer. For 3 months, she maintained this careful dance. Available but not eager, interested but not impressed. She allowed him to pursue her while seeming almost indifferent to his attention. When he sent rare books on wine history to her apartment, she thanked him with a brief call rather than effusive gratitude. Their first kiss came after he took her to a small, exclusive vineyard in a remote part of Sonoma. The owner, an elderly Italian man, had treated Dominic like family, showing them his traditional methods passed down through generations. My grandfather would have loved this place, Dominic said as they walked among the vines. He believed winemaking was art, not industry. The genuine emotion in his voice caught Valentina off guard. When he kissed her among the sun-dappled vines, she found herself responding with unexpected warmth. Later, alone in her apartment, she stared at her reflection, disturbed by how easily she'd forgotten, for just a moment, who he really was. The proposal came after 6 months, during a weekend at his Lake Tahoe retreat. He presented not a diamond but a key. "This opens every door in every property I own," he said, placing it in her palm. "I've never given this to anyone before. I want you to have access to everything in my life." The irony was almost too perfect. "Are you asking what I think you're asking? Marry me, Valerie. You're the first person who sees me, not my wealth or my name." If only he knew how true that was. The engagement made headlines in financial and society publications. Dominic Blackwood, notorious bachelor and business titan, finally captured by the mysterious Valerie Blake. The wedding was set for 6 months later, a lavish but intimate affair for 300 guests at the Blackwood Napa estate. Valentina's first meeting with Isabel Blackwood came 3 weeks after the engagement. Dominic's grandmother resided in the estate's east wing, rarely appearing at public functions but maintaining iron control over the family legacy. At 87, Isabel remained formidable, tall and elegant with perfectly coiffed silver hair and penetrating blue eyes. Those eyes studied Valentina with unsettling intensity during afternoon tea in her private sitting room. "So," Isabel said after Dominic left them alone, "you're the art historian who captured my grandson's heart." "I wouldn't put it quite so dramatically," Valentina replied, maintaining her Valerie persona's cool composure. "No. Then how would you put it? We connect intellectually. It's refreshing for both of us." Isabel's thin lips curved slightly. "You remind me of someone I knew long ago. Something in the eyes, perhaps." She lifted a photograph from beside her chair, a black and white image of a young woman from the 1940s. "My sister Eleonora. She had your directness." Valentina's heart raced as she studied the photograph. The woman bore a striking resemblance to her grandmother Rosa, the same high cheekbones and determined expression. "I didn't realize you had a sister," she said carefully. "Few do. She made unfortunate choices during the war. Married an Italian man despite our family's objections." Isabel replaced the photograph. "We lost touch after that unpleasantness with the internment camps." The casual reference to the unpleasantness that had destroyed her great-grandfather's life made Valentina's blood boil, but she maintained her mask. "How sad to lose a sister over politics. Family loyalty should transcend all other considerations," Isabel said pointedly. "Remember that, my dear." As the wedding approached, Valentina methodically explored Dominic's world. His business empire was more complex than she'd realized. Technology ventures, real estate holdings, and financial services all built upon the original wine fortune. She identified key vulnerabilities: a pending merger that depended on his personal reputation, investors who were nervous about recent market volatility, and a board member susceptible to manipulation. She began planting subtle seeds of doubt among his associates. A casual question here about a business decision, a hint of concern there about his judgment since falling in love. Nothing direct, nothing traceable, just enough to create microscopic cracks in his carefully constructed world. What she hadn't anticipated were the moments of genuine connection. Dominic working late into the night on a clean energy project that could bring affordable power to developing regions. His quiet visits to a children's hospital where he read stories to patients, away from press or publicity. His vulnerability when speaking about his parents' death in a plane crash when he was 14, leaving him in Isabel's strict care. "She made me strong," he told Valentina one night as they sat on the terrace overlooking the vineyard. "But she never showed me how to be happy. Until you, I'm not sure I knew what that meant." His hand covered hers, warm and solid. For a dangerous moment, Valentina found herself wondering who Dominic might have become without Isabel's influence. The Blackwood Estate's wine cellar was legendary among collectors, a climate-controlled underground vault housing vintages dating back generations. Unlike the main cellar used for entertaining, this private collection remained locked at all times, with access restricted to Dominic and the estate's sommelier. "Family tradition," Dominic explained when Valentina inquired. "Some of those bottles are the last of their kind." Her obsession with the cellar grew as the wedding approached. What secrets might it hold? Could her father's missing evidence be hidden there? The key Dominic had given her, the one that supposedly opened every door, didn't work on the cellar's sophisticated electronic lock. Her opportunity came during their engagement party. 300 guests filled the estate grounds, including celebrities, business leaders, and politicians. Security was focused on the perimeter, leaving internal movements less scrutinized. Valentina implemented her plan meticulously. First, she spilled red wine on her cream silk dress, necessitating a trip upstairs to change. Then, she arranged for Kai, attending as a business associate, to engage Dominic in an extended conversation about investment opportunities in sustainable agriculture. With a small electronic device concealed in her clutch, technology Kai had acquired through his less reputable contacts, she made her way to the cellar entrance. The device bypassed the security system long enough for her to slip inside. Motion-activated lights illuminated row upon row of bottles, some behind glass, others resting in specialized racks. She moved quickly, scanning labels, searching for anything connected to her family. In the furthest corner, behind a temperature-controlled glass wall, she found what she sought, a separate chamber marked Historical Collection. Inside, a dozen bottles bore labels she recognized instantly. Russo Vineyards, 1939 to 1942. Her great-grandfather's original vintages, before the internment camp, before the theft. Her hands trembled as she photographed the bottles and their placement. This was proof. The Blackwoods had stolen not just techniques but actual Russo wine. As she moved closer to examine the bottles, she noticed a small safe embedded in the wall behind them. TB7. The marking on her father's key. Before she could process this discovery, the lights in the cellar brightened. Dominic stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "Finding everything you need." His voice was dangerously soft. Valentina's mind raced. Discovery now would destroy everything. She forced a smile, letting embarrassment show on her face. "You caught me. I wanted to surprise you." She moved toward him, away from the Russo bottles. "I was looking for a specific vintage for our honeymoon. Something symbolic." His eyes narrowed slightly. "In the Historical Collection. Those wines aren't for drinking, Valerie. I wasn't going to take anything. Just looking for inspiration." She reached him, placing her hands on his chest. "I should have asked. I'm sorry." For a long moment he studied her face. Then his expression softened. "You're the only person I've ever met who appreciates these wines' historical significance as much as I do." He glanced at the Russo bottles. "Some of these represent winemaking techniques that were nearly lost." "Stolen, you mean," she thought but said instead. "They're beautiful. Your family preserved something precious." "Our family," he corrected, kissing her forehead. "After the wedding, all of this will be yours too." As he led her back upstairs to rejoin their guests, Valentina's mind whirled with implications. The key, the safe, the Russo bottles. Pieces of a puzzle were falling into place. But most disturbing was the realization that for a brief moment, in Dominic's arms, she'd felt something dangerously close to belonging. The enemy was becoming human. And that made her mission infinitely more complicated. The wedding transformed Valerie Blake into Valerie Blackwood in a ceremony that graced the covers of society magazines worldwide. Valentina played her role flawlessly, the elegant, composed bride who had tamed America's most eligible bachelor. If her smile sometimes failed to reach her eyes, observers attributed it to the natural nerves of a woman joining such a powerful dynasty. That night, in the master suite of the Blackwood estate, she initiated their first night together with calculated passion. Physical intimacy was a necessary part of her deception. What she hadn't anticipated was Dominic's tenderness, his focus on her pleasure, the way he whispered her name, her false name, like a prayer. When exhaustion finally claimed him, she lay awake, disturbed by her body's betrayal of her mission. Sleep, when it came, brought the dream that had haunted her since her father's death. She walked through dying vines, calling for Luciano, finding him slumped against a wooden post, eyes open but unseeing. But tonight the dream shifted, revealing new details. Her father's hands, always stained with soil in reality, were clean. Too clean. His fingernails, which should have been embedded with dirt from working the vineyard, were immaculate. And something else. A small puncture wound at the base of his skull, hidden by his collar. Details her conscious mind had registered but never processed. She woke gasping, drenched in sweat, to find Dominic propped on one elbow beside her, his face etched with concern. "Valerie, you were crying out in Italian." She froze. Had she revealed herself, called out her real name? "Something about your father," he continued, brushing damp hair from her face. "You've never mentioned him before." The moment demanded vulnerability, real or fabricated. She chose a version of truth. "He died when I was younger. It wasn't peaceful." She turned away, but Dominic gently turned her back to face him. "My parents died when I was 14. Plane crash over the Alps." His voice held old pain. "Grandmother says I screamed in my sleep for months afterward." "What helped?" she asked, genuinely curious. "Nothing for a long time." Isabel believed grief was weakness. She'd say, "Blackwoods don't break, they rebuild." His finger traced the curve of Valentina's cheek. "I stopped showing pain, but that's not the same as healing." "How did you survive it?" "I built walls, focused on achievement, expansion, acquisition. Anything to make Isabel proud." His smile held surprising bitterness. "It took me decades to realize I was trying to earn love from someone incapable of giving it." Valentina found herself sharing more truth than she'd intended. "After my father died, I felt hollow, like I'd never be whole again. And now?" The question hung between them, dangerous in its simplicity. She met his eyes in the darkness. "Now I know exactly what I need to do." He interpreted her words as affirmation of their marriage. She meant them as recommitment to her revenge. Yet as he pulled her against his chest, murmuring comfort until she drifted back to sleep, the line between deception and truth blurred dangerously. The dream returned the following night, revealing more inconsistencies. Her father's favorite watch, missing from his wrist. The suicide note, typed rather than handwritten, with phrasing he would never use. The half-empty wine bottle beside him, sang Delcourt but no glass. Who drinks fine wine directly from the bottle, especially as their final act? Each night brought new details, her subconscious assembling evidence that pointed to one conclusion. Luciano Russo had been murdered, the scene staged to suggest suicide. 3 weeks after the wedding, an unmarked envelope appeared on Valentina's desk in the small study Dominic had converted for her use. Inside, photocopies of Blackwood Enterprises board minutes from 5 years earlier, exactly when the Russo vineyard began its mysterious decline. The documents referenced Project Reclamation, a cryptic initiative authorized by Isabel Blackwood with a substantial black budget. Dominic's signature was conspicuously absent from these particular minutes, though he had signed other documents from the same meeting. Valentina secured the papers in her personal safe, mind racing. Someone inside the Blackwood organization was helping her. But who? And why? 2 days later, a second envelope appeared while she attended a charity luncheon. This one contained medical records for Charles Blackwood, Dominic's grandfather, showing treatment for acute ethanol poisoning in 1943, the same period when he allegedly developed the revolutionary winemaking techniques that launched the family fortune. Attached was a handwritten note. The techniques weren't stolen. The formula was, "Look deeper." The third delivery came during a weekend when Dominic took her to their Manhattan penthouse. While he attended a board meeting, Valentina found a small package waiting in her private dressing room. Inside, a leather-bound journal with the initials E.B. Eleonora Blackwood, Isabel's estranged sister. The journal detailed Eleonora's forbidden romance with Antonio Russo, Valentina's great-uncle, whom she had met while volunteering at the internment camp where the Russo men were held. Their secret marriage, her pregnancy, her brother Charles stealing Antonio's wine formula while he was detained. Most shocking, Eleonora's claim that Isabel had arranged for Antonio's accident after the war, when he threatened to expose the theft. The final entry, dated 1947. I've hidden the truth where Charles will never look, in plain sight among his precious trophies. Someday, someone will recognize what was stolen and restore justice to both our families. Valentina's hands trembled as she closed the journal. If Eleonora was her great-aunt, that meant Isabel Blackwood was her great-aunt as well. The woman who had likely orchestrated her father's murder was her own blood. Most disturbing was the implication that Dominic might truly be ignorant of his family's crimes. The board minutes showed his absence from project reclamation discussions. The medical records suggested the original theft predated him by generations. When Kai met her for their prearranged accidental encounter at an art gallery opening, his concern was immediate. "You look troubled," he said when they had a moment alone. "Is the plan proceeding?" "It's more complicated than we thought," she explained the new information, watching his expression grow increasingly alarmed. "This changes nothing," he insisted. "Dominic Blackwood benefits from his family's crimes, whether he knows their origin or not. But if he's innocent, there are no innocents in families built on theft and murder." Kai's voice hardened. "You're becoming emotionally involved, Valentina. That's exactly what they want." "They? Who's sending me this information, Kai? Is it you?" "I wish it were. At least then I'd know the agenda." He gripped her shoulders. "Remember your father. Remember what they took from you. From us." His intensity disturbed her. This wasn't just about justice for her father anymore. Kai wanted the Blackwoods destroyed, regardless of individual guilt. As she returned to Dominic that evening, a troubling question formed. Was she still pursuing justice, or had she become a pawn in a larger game she didn't fully understand? Despite her growing doubts, Valentina continued implementing her revenge strategy. She had spent 3 years planning Dominic Blackwood's downfall, and the machinery she'd set in motion couldn't easily be stopped. Her careful manipulations began bearing fruit. The board member she'd cultivated raised questions about Dominic's judgment on the pending merger. Investors she'd subtly alarmed began withdrawing support from key projects. Competitors she'd fed strategic information exploited newly visible weaknesses in his market position. Dominic's business empire, seemingly invincible months earlier, developed hairline fractures. Nothing catastrophic, yet, but concerning enough that he began working longer hours, his confidence visibly shaken. "I don't understand what's happening," he confessed one night, loosening his tie as he collapsed into a chair in their bedroom. "It's like everyone's turned against me simultaneously." Valentina felt a twist of something uncomfortably like guilt. "Perhaps you've been too trusting. The only person I trust completely is you." He reached for her hand. "I need your perspective on something. The board is questioning the Clean Energy Initiative in Southeast Asia. They want to redirect those funds to shore up our position in the technology sector." This was exactly the opportunity she had engineered, a chance to guide him toward a disastrous business decision that would accelerate his downfall. The words of advice that would serve her revenge were on the tip of her tongue. Instead, she heard herself say, "Don't abandon the energy project. It's not just good business, it's the right thing to do. Your board is reacting from fear, not strategy." His relief was palpable. "That's what I thought too. With you beside me, I can weather this storm." Later, alone in her study, Valentina stared at her reflection in the window. Why had she given him sound advice rather than the destructive guidance she'd planned? Was she losing sight of her purpose? As weeks passed, she found herself increasingly torn. Each morning, she reviewed her father's journal and the evidence of Blackwood crimes to rekindle her resolve. Each night, she witnessed Dominic's growing vulnerability as his business challenges mounted. Challenges she had orchestrated but now found herself helping him navigate. The breaking point came during a thunderstorm that knocked out power to the estate. By candlelight in the library, Dominic revealed the childhood that had shaped him. After my parents died, Isabel controlled everything. What I wore, who I spoke to, how I spent every minute. His voice was distant, remembering. Any sign of weakness earned her contempt. When I cried for my mother, she locked me in my room until I stopped. 3 days the first time. Valentina's breath caught. That's abuse, not discipline. She was preparing me for a world that shows no mercy to the vulnerable. He swirled brandy in his glass, firelight reflecting in the amber liquid. The night before I left for boarding school, she told me something I've never forgotten. Love is a luxury Blackwoods cannot afford. Power is the only security. Do you believe that? Valentina asked softly. His eyes, when they met hers, held unexpected rawness. I did. Until you. In that moment, Valentina faced a terrible truth. She was falling in love with the man she had married to destroy. Worse, she was no longer certain he deserved destruction. As the storm raged outside, mirroring her internal conflict, she made a decision. She would uncover the complete truth, about Isabel, about her father's death, about the mysterious ally feeding her information, before proceeding further with her revenge. What she didn't realize was that Isabel Blackwood had already recognized her. The old woman had been watching her granddaughter-in-law with growing interest, recognizing the features of her estranged sister in Valentina's face, seeing through the blonde hair and colored contacts to the Russo bloodline beneath. The final confrontation was approaching faster than anyone anticipated. The key to CB7 burned in Valentina's pocket as she descended the stairs to the wine cellar. Dominic was in San Francisco for emergency board meetings she had orchestrated through her careful manipulations. The estate staff had been given the evening off, leaving her alone with her thoughts and determination. The electronic lock yielded to her stolen access code. Inside the historical collection, she moved directly to the hidden safe behind the Russo wine bottles. The small key slid into the lock perfectly, revealing a space containing a single leather portfolio. Inside, her father's final evidence. Chemical analyses proving the original Blackwood wine formula was identical to Matteo Russo's proprietary blend. Photographs of Charles Blackwood visiting the internment camp. Most damning, a signed confession from a former Blackwood employee admitting to contaminating the Russo Vineyard soil with a specialized toxin developed in Blackwood laboratories. Valentina was so absorbed in the documents that she didn't hear the cellar door open. When she finally sensed another presence, she looked up to find Dominic watching her, his expression unreadable. I had the security system alert me if anyone entered this room while I was away, he said quietly. I never expected it would be you. She straightened, abandoning pretense. I needed to find the truth. And what truth is that, Valentina Russo? The sound of her real name froze her blood. He knew. Somehow he knew. How long have you known? She managed. Since our second date. Your knowledge of Italian winemaking techniques was too intimate for academic study alone. It was lived experience. He moved closer, his movements controlled. The question is, why would Luciano Russo's daughter change her identity to marry me? The moment had arrived sooner than she'd planned, but Valentina was done with deception. She thrust the portfolio toward him. Your family destroyed mine. Your grandmother had my father murdered to protect your fortune, a fortune built on stolen Russo wine formulas. Her voice shook with 3 years of suppressed rage. I married you to dismantle everything you've built, piece by piece. Dominic's face registered genuine shock as he scanned the documents. This can't be right. My grandfather developed those techniques himself. And I had nothing to do with your father's death. Your signature is on the board minutes authorizing project reclamation. I never signed. He stopped, examining the document more closely. This isn't my signature. It's close, but the pressure points are wrong. His eyes met hers, realization dawning. We've both been manipulated. How convenient, Valentina scoffed. Deny everything when confronted. If I wanted to deny everything, I would have had security remove you the moment I discovered your real identity. His intensity matched hers. Instead, I waited, hoping you'd trust me enough to tell me yourself. Before she could respond, slow applause echoed through the cellar. Isabel Blackwood emerged from the shadows, elegant even with her cane. Bravo! Such passion from both of you. The old woman's smile held no warmth. I wondered how long this charade would continue. Dominic turned to his grandmother. You knew about this? About her? Of course I knew. I recognized Eleonora's features the moment I saw her. Isabel moved closer, studying Valentina. My sister's granddaughter returned to claim what she believes is hers. Valentina's mind reeled. What are you talking about? Your grandmother Rosa was Eleonora's daughter, my niece. When Eleonora ran off with Antonio Russo, she was already carrying Charles's child. Isabel's revelation landed like a thunderbolt. Rosa was a Blackwood by blood, which makes you, my dear, a Blackwood too. That's impossible, Valentina whispered. Is it? Why do you think I've allowed this little revenge plot to unfold? I've been watching you, evaluating your intelligence, your determination, your ruthlessness. Isabel's eyes gleamed with approval. You've proven yourself worthy of your heritage, more worthy than my own grandson. Dominic's face hardened. So you orchestrated all of this? Luciano's death. The Vineyard's destruction. Luciano discovered the truth about Rosa's parentage. He threatened to expose our family's founding myth, that Charles Blackwood was a self-made genius rather than a common thief. Isabel spoke matter-of-factly, as if discussing business strategy rather than murder. I couldn't allow that. The Blackwood name is everything. You had my father killed over a name. Valentina's voice broke. I protected our legacy, just as I'm doing now. Isabel turned to her. You've demonstrated qualities Dominic lacks, the willingness to do whatever necessary to achieve your goals. Jamie, embrace your true heritage. Together, we'll build a Blackwood empire that will endure for generations. And Dominic? Valentina asked, though she already knew the answer. He's proven himself. Disappointing. Usof. Too ethical. Isabel dismissed her grandson with a wave. The board already questions his leadership. With your help, we can ease him out completely. Valentina looked between grandmother and grandson, her blood relation and the man she had married to destroy. Both Blackwoods, yet fundamentally different. One had orchestrated her father's murder. The other had been another pawn in Isabel's grand design. You want me to help you destroy your own grandson, she clarified. I want you to claim your birthright, Isabel corrected. Sentiment has no place in empire building. Dominic watched Valentina, his expression revealing nothing. The choice is yours. You came here for revenge. She's offering you something more complete than you could have achieved alone. The realization struck Valentina with stunning clarity. This was exactly what she had wanted. The Blackwood Empire within her grasp, Dominic's destruction assured. Yet the victory felt hollow. What would my father want? She wondered aloud. Justice, Dominic suggested quietly. Power, countered Isabel. The power to ensure no one ever threatens what's yours again. Valentina closed her eyes, remembering her father among his vines. His hands stained with soil, his face alight with pride in what he had built through honest work. When she opened them, her decision was made. My father believed in creating, not destroying. She faced Isabel directly. I won't help you, and I won't let you hurt anyone else in either of our families. Isabel's face hardened. Disappointing. You're weak, just like him. No, Dominic interjected, moving to stand beside Valentina. "She's strong enough to break the cycle you created." Together, they watched understanding dawn in Isabel's eyes. She had lost control of both her pawns. "You'll regret this," she warned, turning to leave. "Both of you." "Perhaps," Valentina replied. "But we'll regret it on our own terms." Spring came to Napa Valley, bringing renewal to the long-neglected Russo vineyard. Valentina stood among newly planted vines, watching workers install irrigation systems where once her family's legacy had withered. "The soil tests came back clean," Dominic said, joining her with a tablet displaying results. "The contamination has finally broken down." 3 months had passed since their confrontation with Isabel. The aftermath had been messy but necessary. Evidence of her crimes provided to authorities, the Blackwood board restructured, the truth about both families' histories made public. Isabel now lived under house arrest while awaiting trial. Her empire diminished but her dignity intact. She had underestimated her grandson's business acumen and her niece's granddaughter's determination to seek justice rather than vengeance. "I found something you should see," Dominic said, leading Valentina to a newly excavated section behind the old winery building. Workers had uncovered a hidden root cellar, preserved despite years of neglect. Inside, they discovered what Luciano had protected with his life: dozens of terracotta pots containing vine cuttings from the original Russo plantings, preserved in dormant state, waiting for someone to bring them back to life. "He knew they might destroy the vineyard," Valentina whispered, touching the precious cuttings with reverent fingers. "So he saved our heritage." "Our heritage," Dominic corrected gently. "Both Russo and Blackwood." Their marriage, begun as a weapon, had transformed into something neither had anticipated: a partnership to heal wounds inflicted generations earlier. The new venture they created, Russo Blackwood Vineyards, would produce wines acknowledging both families' contributions, with profits funding scholarships for descendants of internment camp survivors. As sunset painted the valley gold, they carefully transplanted the first of Luciano's preserved vines into freshly prepared soil. Valentina's hands worked alongside Dominic's, both stained with honest earth. "Do you think they would approve?" he asked. "Your father, my parents. I think they would recognize what we're trying to do," she replied. "Break the cycle. Create something new from old wounds." As the final cutting took its place in its new home, Valentina felt a sense of completion. She had come seeking revenge but found something far more valuable: the truth and the chance to build rather than destroy. The vines would take years to mature, their roots growing deep into soil once poisoned but now renewed. Like the legacy they were creating together, it would require patience, care, and faith in the future. Some breaks couldn't be mended. Some losses couldn't be undone. But new growth was always possible, even in the most damaged soil. Revenge promises satisfaction but delivers emptiness. When we dedicate ourselves to another's destruction, we often destroy something essential within ourselves. Valentina discovered that her carefully cultivated hatred was consuming her identity, turning her into someone her father wouldn't recognize. Justice and vengeance may begin at the same source, but they flow in different directions. Justice seeks to restore balance and heal wounds. Vengeance creates new injuries in a never-ending cycle. The courage to pursue justice often requires letting go of the very anger that initially fueled our quest for it. Our family legacies shape us profoundly, yet they need not define our futures. Valentina and Dominic both carried the weight of their families' histories, one built on theft, one devastated by loss. Their choice to create something new together demonstrated that we can honor our roots while growing in new directions. Truth holds the power to both destroy and heal. The same revelations that shattered Valentina's revenge plans ultimately created the possibility for authentic connection. By facing reality together, however painful, she and Dominic found solid ground on which to build. Sometimes our greatest enemies become our most powerful allies when truth is fully revealed. The person Valentina married to destroy became her partner in healing. Their shared experience of manipulation created a bond stronger than the hatred that initially connected them. The most profound transformation often comes when we choose love over justified anger. This isn't weakness but tremendous strength, the courage to remain open to possibility even after devastating hurt. In choosing to plant new vines rather than salt the earth, Valentina and Dominic broke cycles of destruction generations in the making. Hello, my beautiful soul. Isn't it strange how life sometimes brings healing from the most unexpected sources? Valentina found redemption in the very place she sought revenge, in the arms of the man she married to destroy. I wonder, have you ever experienced love growing from the ashes of hatred? Have you discovered that the person you thought was your enemy became the ally you needed most? Share your story of forgiveness and transformation in the comments below. Your journey might illuminate the path for someone else struggling to choose healing over hurt. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and join our community of souls seeking deeper connections. Like and share with someone who appreciates that life's greatest plot twists often lead us exactly where we need to be.